2021, success can look a little bit different than what we're used to, especially if we're attacking it from an early age. Our guest this week has over 6,000 followers between all of her different social media accounts. Her writing and poetry and her articles on her blog are what drew us at Forerunner to bringing her on as a content creator. And she has also recently achieved her CNA and is working in senior care and home health. Welcome to Impetus, Minds of the Driven with Bergan Behr.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. We got you here all the way out from Colorado. Like, this is really cool to be able to make this happen. I'm so excited. With you being from Colorado, I really want to start this thing off by like having everyone know how we got to know each other. So there's a mutual friend that we have, me through the dance community, and you grew up with her named Tessa. And you went to visit Tessa at one point, and Tessa and I were communicating back and forth through different social media platforms. And I got to know you a little bit that way because she didn't know how to like put the camera on her and like not have the camera on you. So we'll go ahead and like say that was my first inclination that you were going to be extremely photogenic and be perfect for what we're doing now. After you went back to Colorado, there was like a break in time where we didn't really talk too much. And then I got a hold of your blog post actually through Tessa. And I reached out to you one day and I was like, you know, I'm going to get a hold of the blog post from her and see if she's actually interested in this. You sent them to me. Take it from there. What, like, after I asked you for your blog post, like, what was the feeling?
Yeah. Honestly shocked. I know like we had talked with Tessa and obviously that was really fun. And going home, I kind of forgot about like the whole conversation and everything. And when you asked for my blog post, I was kind of, first inclination was, why? I was so scared. I was, you know, I've never really shared my writing that way before, like other than my poetry, and writing was like my articles are more just personal to me. And I was like, oh gosh, what is he going to think? It's like, what grammar errors are there? Like something random, you know, overthinking. But.
And then I come back with this thing where it's like, hey, I know we're friends, but, do you want a job?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, when you called me, it didn't seem like an interview. I didn't think it was an interview because the way you format it, like you thought that you said you wanted to like just talk to me about your writing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And then at the end, obviously you offered the position. And in my mind, I'm like, did that just happen? Like, did I hear that correctly? So honestly shocked, I think, was the biggest word. I was like, what? And confused.
And one of the things that I do with everyone that works for us is that I always give you like a 2-week time period to think about it, to pray about it. I think that's a huge part of making decisions. And I also want you to commune with the people that are important to you, like your family, your friends, and get an idea as to, is this the right avenue for me? Do I have the right skill set? Do I have the time commitment? Like what are all these things? Is this a good idea? So I gave you 2 weeks. Can you talk to me a little bit about what happened in that 2-week period?
Oh, a lot of back and forth. Obviously, I was starting my senior year, or like just finishing my junior year, starting my senior year. Really scared that I wouldn't have enough time or that I just wasn't,
and that's
prepared.
Like senior year in high school, right?
Yeah.
So for the audience, Bergan is 18 years old and she drops some absolutely amazing, just mature wisdom and everything like that in your articles that you've been writing for us. I've been blown away, right? Like not only like your blog posts were cool, don't get me wrong, but the stuff that you've been writing for us has just been absolutely incredible. So I'm sorry, I cut you off. Continue.
Yeah, honestly, I kept going back and forth. I obviously, talked to my parents. They didn't really know that I wrote, seriously like that. So that was kind of, they're like, wait, so you actually do this? Like enough to get a job? Like they're kind of like, wait, what? They're pretty supportive of it. Obviously, I don't think they understood like the commitment that was actually at hand. Obviously, I talked to Tessa. She was like super supportive. I talked to some of my mentors, obviously super supportive. But I think the really biggest thing, and I know I wrote an article on this about the speech, The Man in the Arena, by Theodore Roosevelt. Right. And that, I can't remember how I came across it. I think I was watching like a podcast or something, or some motivational video, but I was listening to that. And when I heard that speech, and I'd also read it in Dan Greatly by Brene Brown, that quote or that speech really inspired me to get out of my comfort zone and to be take those chances. Because I've always been, super overthinker, super like comfort zone, won't go out. And I think that that speech really inspired me to, just see where this goes, take this opportunity and,
Were there any challenges or like red flags or yellow flags? Were I would say concerns. Were there any concerns going into this thing? And you could look, just because I'm your boss doesn't mean like tell me like I would love to know this. Like what sort of things, and beyond just maybe the time commitment and I know that we'll talk a little bit about internal dialogue here in a second. But what about with the opportunity that was presented itself? Were there any concerns that you had moving forward? I
mean, I was just scared because I've never written articles like other than myself. Like that was kind of a big thing. Like I'm writing things that other people are going to read. I have an impact on other people. So that was a little, I was kind of concerned. I was also concerned that like, obviously I had never met you in person before this. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this guy I just met through Tessa and now I'm going to take a job with him. And that was
really riding on faith with Tessa. Like that shows how awesome your guys' relationship was. How long have you known Tessa? Because it's very obvious that you trusted her opinion and that you got a lot of counsel from her on this. How long had you known her at the point whenever all of this was happening?
Since 5th grade. So about 7 or 8 years. Yeah. That's
a really long lasting friendship.
Oh yeah. We are inseparable.
And she traveled with you down here to Virginia, right?
Yeah.
So you guys met up in Charlotte, I believe, and then flew up here together. So Tessa got to come visit as well, which makes me super happy because I get like awesome dance friend. Get to reconnect after the COVID crisis, which is a hellscape in and of itself. All right, so this sort of brings us to your articles themselves, and I want to talk a lot about process here. I think, especially from a young perspective, people get so lost in how do I do what I want to do? I don't know how to do what I want to do. So let's talk first about inspiration. Where do you find a lot of your inspiration for your articles?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of them come from, books that I read. Some things just come to me. Honestly, I'll be like talking with a friend. I'm like, that would be a great idea for an article. Other things, I would say mostly books and personal experiences.
Have there been any people that have like really influenced you? It could be other artists or anything like that. Is there anybody that you specifically cling to that's really provide a lot of inspiration or fuel for your passion?
Obviously C.S. Lewis, because you probably knew that.
We'll get into Lewis here in a minute.
Okay. Honestly, can't think of anyone. It's just different people, different times, whatever clings to me at the moment.
Okay. So let's talk about Lewis for a second.
Okay.
You seem to quote Lewis in almost every article that I've read, and I don't think that that's a bad thing because I think that Lewis has just an enormous amount of wealth. He'll have his signature classics sitting on that shelf right there, the Chronicles of Narnia right here, right? If it's not obvious, I too am a Lewis fan. When did you first encounter C.S. Lewis? When did C.S. Lewis first come into your life?
Obviously I read Chronicles of Narnia as a kid, but I don't think I really clung to his writing style and like what he, actually like did until the summer before freshman year. We had to read the Screw Tape Letters for school, and I just remember everyone hating it. They were like, I don't understand it. This doesn't make sense. And I was like the one person that was like, I absolutely loved it. I think I read it twice.
It is incredible.
I love the perspective that it came from. And I know you wrote that whole series on it.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know what, but it just totally challenged my faith in how I viewed Christianity with that book. And I just fell in love with his writing style and
and the humor.
That too. And
like Lewis is funny.
I know.
And it's really, really funny to hear him have this dialogue between these demons and to some of his descriptions make them look like these Keebler elves that are like really demonic working in like this office building in the middle of hell. It's so like comical, and people like glance over that because he does use a lot of advanced language. Do you have a favorite piece of work besides the Screw Tape Letters? Is there anything beside? It's obvious that is like sort of your baby, but is there anything else that you find that if you could encourage people to go and read Lewis, what would it be?
Honestly, I mean, obviously that.
Yeah.
The Four Loves I really like. I mean, that was one of my first articles. It just kind of goes in depth of love itself and how there's, different kinds. I really like that. But I mean, all his pieces are amazing. You just have to find the one that, you relate to and really cling to heart. But yeah, Screwtape Letters, I'll stick with that.
Awesome. So we're going to take a quick break, and I want to address you, the audience. If you are enjoying this conversation with Bergan, I really, really want to encourage you guys to head on over to forerunnerproductions.locals.com. That's where you get access to her articles. You can read the things that we're talking about here, and you also get access to an extended version of this conversation on Locals when you are a supporter. We want you to join the culture revolution. We want you to help us tell the best stories that have ever been told and recapture the soul of our society in a way that has been broken by the institutions. So head on over to forerunnerproductions.locals.com. Become a supporter for as little as $2. That's all it takes. If you can give us $2 a month, that's a soda that you might be giving up. You are helping impact the culture in a way that will make a difference in people's lives for generations to come. Looking forward to seeing you there. Let's go beyond the articles. You write articles for us here at Forerunner, but the majority of your following is actually on the heels of your poetry that you do. So first of all, I want to know why poetry.
Ooh. Wow. I know you did do another podcast on like where have all the poets gone, and how poetry relates to people more in a way than sometimes literature does. And I think for me, poetry was so expressive. I know that, you can do it with literature, but for me, poetry just came from the heart. It was more vulnerable in a sense. But yeah, I don't know. It just kind of happened. When I started off, I just kind of wrote little things down. I wouldn't even call it poetry. And then here we are. So
how did you discover the style that you use? Because there's a definitive style that I would call Bergan, right? Yeah. And it is all over your Instagram, whether the alternation of the black and white, as well as how you structure the pieces when you write them. The length of them is typically very common and sequential. Like, did you stumble upon this? Was this something that you crafted slowly, that you say, I want to change this and get here? How did you come up with your style?
Yeah, I definitely think it, evolved over time. It was obviously short, and it kind of had that almost like thought process in a way. Like it was basically my thoughts. Like they have the spaces in between. Yeah, it just really evolved. I knew I didn't want to write like long poetry. I didn't want it to be I just wanted it to be different, separate than everything else, or everyone else's poetry.
You seem to base a lot of your themes on love, right?
Yeah.
And the content of the heart. And some of them I read, and it's very obvious. It would be what the Greeks would call eros, right? This romantic love. But some of them are very geared towards more of the agape familia type of love, this all-encompassing love, or the love that you share between family members, whether it be father and daughter, or mother and son, or siblings together. What inspired you to sort of take that route? Or I guess a better question is, what makes that element of love near and dear to your heart?
Ooh. I've always really cared about people. I think definitely I just hold people close to my heart. When I get attached, I get attached. But my writing style, I wanted to reach others. I think, letting them know that they are loved, if that makes any sense. My writing was a way of almost communicating that love with others. And I think that's the biggest thing, is writing allowed me to, it's how I express my love for them, or, just showed. Does that make any sense? Like,
yeah, no, you're fine. Okay. It sounds great.
But
so, what are some of your goals for your writing career? Where's this going for you? You've started to garner this following on your social media platforms. You're starting to garner a following here at Forerunner Productions. For a long time, the majority of our supporters were coming to Forerunner because of you. It wasn't because of me. It wasn't because of the 4 other podcasts that we're running. It was because of you. So knowing that, what is the future of your career? Because I know that you're also very passionate about your CNA and going into the nursing field and being a caregiver and being able to show that love and compassion that you write about so often. So first of all, how do you plan on balancing it? And then what does the future hold?
Oh gosh. Honest answer, I have no idea. Just gonna put it out there, I have no idea. I think, obviously once I major in nursing, come out with that, I hopefully have time to do writing when my day's off, hopefully. Again, I don't know what that looks like right now, but that's okay. I'll figure out when it gets there. But my goals, for sure, I really want to publish a book. That has been my goal ever since I got to high school.
I think I know somebody that might be able to help you with that.
Really?
Okay. We'll have to talk afterwards.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, definitely write a book. Obviously I want to write a book with all my poetry in it, but I really want to write a book that's directed towards younger girls. And I really want it to impact them, and I really want them something along the lines of what I wish I had read when I was younger. And that's probably not a right now thing. I want to gain experience in, how to write a book and everything. But that is like a really big dream of mine, is to write something. Yeah. That's
absolutely incredible. In a society where Cardi B is the role model for 12-year-old girls right now, we need more people that are willing to focus on the things that matter. And that's not our desires or our passions or our gluttonous drives that have us, or our lustful drives that society seems to promulgate so much, but good things of truth that are backed by the natural law. And I see that being a not only an avenue that needs to be filled, but I see you being someone that could very much fill that role in a way that it needs to happen. It needs to happen. And we're beyond excited and proud to have you as a part of our family and our team here to make that culture impact, right? Like, you've already been having just an incredible impact through the things that you've been writing and doing, and to see where you're going. I keep bringing this up because it blows my mind, because I never dreamed that someone would be in your position at 18 years old, right? You hear people like that's a Ben Shapiro level thing. Like, seriously, like Ben Shapiro got started writing in politics when he was 17 years old. Like, girlfriend, like, you're right there. You're right there with him. And that is really, really cool. So I look forward to seeing what happens there. I want to talk a little bit more about you and what drives you. I want to talk about what your impetus is, right? Your driving factor, the turning point that gets you to turn down these directions. And the first thing that I want to talk about is how life experience plays directly into the things that we're passionate about. So what things have you gone through and encountered in your life? I'm going to ask you to be really vulnerable with us here. What things have impacted and driven you, A, to do the things that you're doing, and B, to write about the things that you write about? Because it's very obvious, the things that you write about, they come from the heart. And I want to know what's the driving force behind that.
This is the part. So I'm trying to think.
Tears are allowed. It's fine.
Okay, good. Honestly, I feel like everyone goes through something in their life. Maybe not at the same time, maybe not at the same impact that it, does with others. But I guess my biggest trial was at the end of 8th grade, or beginning of 8th grade, really. I was really struggling with my identity, with, who I was, what my purpose was. And I was also a really big pleaser. I love people, and at that time, I loved people too much that I didn't love myself. I didn't love myself before I loved others. And this really took off I developed an eating disorder, and at the time it didn't really make sense to me. I was like 14. But it really just got me, this is weird, but sorry.
You're okay.
To me, it was a form of control. I'm also a perfectionist, or I used to be. So I clung to this as something I could control, something I could make perfect, something that I could physically see, or, and I didn't realize how much it was hurting the people around me. I actually went away to Hawaii for 3 months. I know, out of all places, Hawaii, but it was the worst and best experience of my life. I was there for 3 months, obviously in recovery. I was 14. I was alone from everyone. Like, it was terrifying, but I also met some incredible people. And that's also where I began to write, because we didn't have phones. We didn't have, it wasn't like and I'm so glad that it wasn't, like a building. And it wasn't, rooms without windows. It was outside. And obviously it was hard, but it really got me to sit with myself and reflect on, why I was doing what I was doing, and what was the underneath lying problem. Because I think a lot of people, they look at, addiction, they look at eating disorders, they look at, all these things, and they think, oh, well, what if she just gains the weight? Or what if this person just stops drinking alcohol? Like, that's not at all what is going to fix it. It's always, what's underneath. And some of those things, they're the lifeboat in the storm. I clung to that. People cling to alcohol because they're struggling. And if you take that away from them, that's not going to make anything better. You need to solve the storm first. Right. And Hawaii really, really made me question that and reflect on things. And that's when I started writing. That's
so much more than what I was expecting. And that is incredible. I can't imagine. Like, I've got, like, everyone, you're right, everyone goes through things, right? Everyone gets bludgeoned by life, and how we come out of it very much is indicative of who we become. The standpoint that we take and the views that we take on life is very much who we become. And for you to have come out of that so much stronger, and to not only have come out of it stronger, but to be using that strength to help impact other people's lives now, is beyond admirable. But I honestly also believe that every person is uniquely equipped to solve a problem in this world. And so you've seen where that road goes already. At an early age, you've seen where the problems of the heart lead to dependency on these other things to fill a void. And that's heart-wrenching. But at the same time, it's not the thing that I want to fix. It's not the thing that breaks my heart. Andy Stanley has an entire series on trying to figure out your identity and your calling. And one of the questions that he asks is, what breaks your heart? Because that's the thing that is going to drive you, that you can't avoid, right? You see Humane Society and the puppies on the screen, you're like, that's heartbreaking. Okay, I'm going to continue about my life. Third world hunger issues isn't something that particularly calls to me. Is it tragic? Yes, I can recognize it as being a bad thing, but it's not something that I am so passionate about that I can't ignore it, and I need to go and fix it. So I want to know what it is that you are uniquely equipped to fix. And I think the question that I can use to get there is the same one that Andy Stanley has. What breaks your heart? What's the issue in the world that you just can't avoid, that you just get passionate about and tore up about, and you're like, I need to do something about this?
I think it just goes along lines of, people just not feeling heard or seen or loved. And I think, that's also why I want to write a book towards younger girls, but not only girls. I think everyone, it breaks my heart when someone thinks that they're not enough, because they are. And obviously this comes into like my spiritual, point of view, but everyone was worth dying for. Jesus died for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I think for me to see someone think that they're not good enough, or they thought that they didn't, level up to that breaks my heart. And I think, what I'm doing, I want to reach people and let them know that they are heard, that they are seen, and that they are enough. So Yeah, if that answers.
That is awesome. I am in awe, and I am blown away by some of these answers. These answers should not be coming from someone who is 18. This is so cool. Let's talk about some culture.
Okay.
And this is really cool because you're the youngest person we've had on this show. So you get the unique perspective of speaking for all Gen Z
Yay.
on Impetus. Congratulations. From the unique position that you're in compared to other guests, I want to know, first and foremost, what are some of the older generations, the millennials, the Gen Ys, the boomers, what is the older generation missing that about Gen Z, right? I think that this youngest generation that we have now, your generation that you're sort of on the forefront of, I think they've got some things figured out. But because they're young, it's hard for anyone to accept that they have things figured out. Talk to me. Okay. What has Gen Z got figured out that everyone else is sort of missing?
Okay, obviously I can't speak for everyone. This is, personal opinion. I do think a lot of the older generations kind of discount that we grew up with technology. Like, we have different factors that have impacted us along this way. Like, we didn't grow up how they did. Mm-hmm. And that's not good and it's not bad, but it's also, we come from a different perspective or a different, like, we grew up differently. And I think they need to also understand that, we grew up differently, but that doesn't mean we can't see things the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But we come from a different perspective. We grew up differently. We grew up with different things that they didn't have. And I think a lot of times they discount that as a bad thing.
What do you think one of the biggest impacts technology has had on the growing up of this youngest generation?
Obviously there's pros and cons. I think just the mass, like how easy it is to communicate with people. Like, you can communicate, you can put something out there and it can reach 1,000 people. If it's insane. And, you're exposed to all these different things at a young age. I mean, even on the plane here, I saw these little, kids with tablets, and I'm like, I'm not a parent. I can't say anything, but really, like,
I was in the 8th grade before I got a flip phone, man.
I know, I'm not a parent, but really, it's just, things like that. And obviously, like, exposure to pornography, exposure to, just social media, all these things, you are exposing kids to things at such a young age. And they're going to want to grow up. I mean, when I was little, I was like, yeah, I want to wear these things and go and, do this. You need to be a kid. Kids want to be adults, and part of the way that kids go around and play and be kids is pretending to be adults, right? Exactly.
And so what you allow them to pretend to be is extremely indicative of who they become. Exactly. I think that is a huge point. That's a different train of thought that was really just inspired by what you just said. I think that bleeds really well into the next thing, which is, what is something that Gen Z needs to learn? Like, from one person, from one young individual to, the rest of your generation, where are you guys sort of dropping the ball? Where do you need to pick it up from? Part of it is youth and the lack of experience, but look at millennials. Like, we're in the workforce now, and the cancel culture and the silencing and the bullying and stuff that was around whenever I was in school has now manifested through the college spectrum, and we now see it in our society. It is the young college students that are getting the jobs that are driving a lot of these social programs right now and these progressive agendas. What is it that, in order to be better than what we are, what is something that your generation needs to learn?
I think the biggest thing, obviously, is history repeats itself. And our generation is so young that we haven't lived through that. We haven't seen things, in patterns. We haven't seen this happen then. We're just not old enough to be exposed to that. We're just seeing this happen now. And all we have to go off of is what our parents have said. And obviously, we're rebellious teenagers, so we're not going to listen to them. Mm. And I think we really need to understand that history does repeat itself, and we need to pay attention to what has happened in the past, what has happened in past generation, and how that's manifesting now, because it is, and we need to, see that and act on it.
That's so cool. Yeah. I 100% agree. Okay, before we wrap this up, I want to get into one more thing, and that is the lightning round. So the rules for this, super simple. I have a list of words.
Okay.
I'm going to give you these words, and you're going to give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Here we go. Home.
Family.
Movies.
Popcorn.
Popcorn. I was expecting there to be like a specific
deep?
movie that came to mind. No, it's just
Popcorn.
I
You
just
can't move that popcorn.
crowds.
Crowns.
No, crowds.
Oh, crowds.
Like
Okay.
people. Like she said crowds. She's like, ugh.
Crowds.
It's like
Crowds
it's like
of protests.
Harry and Meghan and Oprah. Okay. Protests. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that could go Cardi B.
Rap.
Okay. Music.
Electric guitar.
Food.
Yummy.
Beach.
Ooh, sand.
I was expecting there to be an emotion tied to that. No, just the
That's how my brain works. Just
like
go with it.
just Anakin Skywalker is like it's coarse and it gets everywhere. Okay.
I'm not that deep. Okay.
Love.
Oh, I mean,
Oh, that was so good.
unbreakable.
Future.
Exciting.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being on this episode of Impetus, Minds of the Driven with Bergan Behr. If you want the bonus content where we talk about Bergan's Christian faith and some of her philosophy points and her love letter, her experiences, and the things that she would want to say to the people that are fans and support